So let's talk about your fight. How'd that go?
Awesome.
Yeah, that went good. I was happy with that. A lot of your goal in this last camp, the camp before then, was getting used to your striking stuff, right? So how do you feel like that's evolved?
I feel like I've taken bits and pieces of what you and Ian have, given to all of the athletes and kind of honed it into my own skill set a little bit.
Sure.
I like to switch stances a lot, and so I've kind of found ways to throw my looping overhands and like all those filler shots while I'm walking in with those switch stances, and it helps me keep my head offline and helps me kind of manage that distance. Usually because I'm the smaller, shorter fighter, so I got to get inside. So I've kind of adapted what you guys have given me and found a way to make it my own.
I've only had like one taller. It's always like, oh man, we're always fighting like the taller folks. Like where are the tall people in my life? Because like we've had Tyler Wasberg, who was like 6'7", and like that was nice. Like I was just like, yeah, just sit on the outside, just jab all day. When they're coming inside, just kick them. And they're like, yeah, it was good. So shout out to Tyler Wasberg. Probably he's an opera singer now. So,
oh dang.
Yeah. So like
that's impressive.
Probably can't be getting choked that much if you're like an opera singer. I don't know how Paul does it with like, he'll go and get choked, or I suppose he doesn't get choked that often now. Now he's doing the choking for like.
Yes.
So all the kids, like, I bet you've only had one or two people ask you like what's next or what's going on, stuff like that. So like I feel like everything's like in this huge flux of like, dang it, Shannon Clark, you should have won on the Contender Series, and then the girl that beat Shannon Clark should have won in the UFC. It's weird because it's like I feel like Shannon Clark is a lot better fighter than they're given. Like she came in as like such a huge, huge favorite, and then she loses off this strike. She used to kind of really come in and go crazy with her strikes, and really intimidate everybody. And then I feel like when this last one, she got knocked down a couple times, she's like, oh crap. And then with you, she played so much more conservatively and looked way, way better in her fight than she actually has in the other ones. But I feel like you don't get that credit,
right,
of facing a higher level opponent. So your thoughts on some of that craziness, and I'm sure that you're just like, yep, everything's great, we love this.
I definitely try to follow it. It is what it is at this point. And the biggest thing for me is just trying to get my name out there, whether the opponents on paper, it looks like I got lost this one or won this one. Just trying to make performances that are eye-opening, which was kind of my big goal with this last fight. Was even if people don't think I had a great opponent or don't think that much of me, like if I can make a performance happen that people remember, that'll travel faster than anything else. So just trying to make big performances, get my name out there a little bit more, and hopefully if I keep winning, eventually they can't really say no anymore. So.
Yeah. What's crazy to me is like I've talked about this with other people too, that like Eleni Pereira, like she's really good, world-class striker. Alex Pereira's sister, like, and you shut her down in such a way that they're like, oh, she's not a good opponent. But like you look at her against like Helen Peralta, who was in the Ultimate Fighter, and was she in the UFC or was just on the Ultimate Fighter?
Just the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah. So it's like she was at that that same level with her, and then Cheyanne goes and shuts her down, and they're like, oh, we don't have good opponents. Like in the last girl fought, yeah, she's 3-3, but a lot of those fights were against those same level girls, where it's like at this level, it's like, oh man, unless you're a class above, like we're all kind of fighting for her. They're all fighting for that same position. So it's kind of crazy where it's like, if the girl's last fight, like she was fighting a good up and comer from Brazil, and then she beats that girl, goes against Cheyanne, and all of a sudden this girl has no credibility. I think that's crazy. Like I thought that girl was actually a really game opponent. We went into that thinking like, okay, this girl, super game, good boxer, ready for a war kind of situation. So it's like, I don't think as our camp we ever gave that 3-3 record any notice or any more notice. To me, it's always like, man, if we're somebody like that, then we for sure have to make sure that we're dotting the I's and crossing the T's, all that stuff, just to make sure that we don't take a loss on a 3-3 opponent. That's almost a little bit scarier for us compared to somebody who's 6-1, 5-0, stuff like that.
Yeah, you never really know where their losses happened at. I mean, Ellie had won a belt in Mexico for a pretty prestigious promotion there, and then she lost a title fight. So we have no idea if her losses were close, if it was, just she got caught. And then you look at my losses, even like my first one was at a completely different weight class against a giant of an Olympian.
She is.
Then,
so I do have a question. Well, no, I'll ask you.
And then, my second loss came from a title fight. So like, even though I have those 2 losses, like they came in either big fights or different situations. So like, you never really know what those losses are actually coming from. So to me, like 3-3, that doesn't really mean much.
I agree. What's the so I was looking at this the other night. There is like a 50% situation where it's like after they fight you, they just don't fight anymore.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah.
Like Eleni Pereira, like now she's doing well in karate now, and that's cool. But it is kind of funny to me that like, and girls that were like on the up and coming, like everything's looking good, all of a sudden you fight them, like they just haven't fought for a while.
Yeah.
So maybe they're not done, but it's kind of weird that like they're like, do they just think, obviously they're like, well, if this terrible girl from South Dakota can beat me, I might as well just give up. I don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, it is weird. There's definitely been a few opponents who have never fought again. Especially at my AMI career, I had a lot of opponents that just were like, never mind. And then a lot of girls either switch weight classes or switch promotions or switch what sport they're doing. So yeah, it has been interesting.
Yeah. I know that we're secretly wanting the UFC card next week, right? So like if the Croatian just can't like make it into the US, that would be okay, right? She's probably already in the US.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what would be how much of a freak out would you have if you were to all of a sudden get a call from McMaynard or Dana White today and be like, all right, we need you on the May 3rd card, next weekend?
I mean, it's always in the back of my mind. Like I wake up every day, especially now at this point in my career, being like, today could be the day. Like
just
today,
for the
literally
Nevada phone number to call.
A random Tuesday could become one of the best days of my life. So, just, I gave myself this week to do some light training, kind of work on resetting the mind and kind of being like, all right, we did that. It was awesome. Now we just move on to the next one. And I'll go right back into training so that if that phone call does come on a random Tuesday, I'm ready.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like it. The, the kind of what's next situation. I know that you and I have talked. It's weird, but it's like Shannon Clark, you're fighting under the LFA banner. So it's like, it's tough because it's like, well, the Cheyanne Clark doesn't really give us any more because she lost a little bit of stock because of that loss on the Contender Series. It doesn't really give you more stock to beat her, right? So we're kind of in this weird flux right now of like
floating in space.
Floating in space, as you call it, just like the abyss.
Yeah.
Just in an ocean. Now I want to go to like You're a Shark. Yeah, but like kind of that situation we've talked about. Trying to get options out there, but it's a really tough situation, especially when you have all your friends asking you like, oh, what's next kind of deal. Like that's kind of where we're at, is like not knowing, like, yeah, we could fight, maybe ask for a rematch for a title fight, but it doesn't necessarily give us that next leap up of what you want,
Yeah, I actually chatted with Lee a little bit last night.
Shout out to Lee Lowell.
I feel like I'm in a space where nobody really knows what to do with me because I don't have this big hype train behind me, but I have a really dangerous record.
Yeah.
So some average level girls see 6-2 and they're like, no way, that's too good. I don't want to go against that person. And then a girl that's really good, up and coming, probably going to get in the UFC in the future, sees that record and they're like, oh, that's good experience level. But I have no hype. So they're like, I don't want to risk losing to somebody that means nothing or what they think means nothing. So, I feel like there's not a lot of people who are kind of willing and brave enough to test the waters with me. But like I said, if I keep winning, eventually they can't say no. Yeah.
We just need like a really good social media person, I feel like. Socrates, help us out with that. Come on now. Socrates is our guy, one of our guys. But because that's this tough spot is I feel like a lot of times we had, over the years, we've had, the Shayna Baszlers, we've had the Ben Wins, we've had Nita's, David Machad, and Devin Clark, things like that, to get into the UFC. And while they're really good fighters, maybe not the best ticket sellers, right? So like we're really just a lot of times hardworking South Dakota people without we'll take Nina out of that mix since you're from Florida, and also becoming a ticket seller now. But like it's tough sometimes where it's like I ask you guys, I'm like, okay, put your nose to the grindstone and work hard, and it's like then off of that comes like your ability, but then like maybe we're struggling on the social media side or being able to sell those tickets. It's difficult to me that a lot of times you have to sensationalize the sport in order to get people to buy tickets compared to just seeing like, holy cow, that person is just a really good athlete. Like I look at like Caitlin Clark a lot of times, like a lot of people are now watching the WNBA that weren't before because of her, and it's not like she's doing anything. She's just a really good player,
Really good.
And it's great that like she's a really good player, but like still not saying a lot. I know that she's got a lot of like craziness behind her of like, oh, it's only because of her ethnicity or whatever, but like for the most part, like she's just a really good athlete, right, and a really good person. It's like you look at that and you're like, man, how was she able to? I mean, other than being the most dominant probably player coming out of Iowa, moving into the WNBA as well, but like I don't know, your thoughts on all that complete ramble?
Yeah, with social media, I've tried to educate myself, and the biggest things I always see is like be authentic, be yourself, and people will connect with that a little bit better and latch on to that. And that's what I've kind of taken to heart. I only showcase the things that I care about, whether that's in the gym, my dogs, my husband. And I'll tell people like, oh, I love seeing your posts. I share a lot of mental health too, a lot of like just inspirational quotes or funny quotes that get me through the day. And I can tell a lot of people are interacting with it, but I just don't have the followers. So I don't know. I'll just keep sharing what I have, sharing who I am, and eventually the right people will find me.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, eventually you keep winning there. You got to get enough of a hype train behind you in order to get shit where you want to go in the UFC. Because I know, like I said, we talked about it. I know the UFC is your first option. PFL, like we can get out. I know you had some options maybe with the GFL. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Is the UFC really your that's where I want to go?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of girls that are in there right now that I was supposed to fight, or had verbally agreed to fight, and now are fighting on the UFC cards.
Or you have a better record.
Or have a better record than them. And so, man, if they can get in there, I know I belong there. It's just a matter of time. But yeah, it's still it's still seen as the pinnacle of the sport, and I want to reach the top of that. So whatever it takes, we'll just, like I said, we'll keep grinding. Eventually, it'll happen. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sitting down for a few minutes on this random Saturday.
Thank you.